All right, so this is the story of Ethan Ralph versus PPP, and how I envision it, and how I imagine every single event to be detailed, down to its precisest level. So I board the plane at Heathrow. I've got attached to my wrist, handcuffed, a golden suitcase full of £5,000 in British sterling. Getting through the customs was a bit of a nightmare. I'm brought into the interview rooms not only once or twice, but 3 times. I'm searched, strip searched, by the British police there. They're wondering why I've got the suitcase attached to my wrist. And they're asking me to open the suitcase, and I emphatically say no. I will not open the suitcase. The suitcase will be opened once this fight between Ethan Ralph and PPP is concluded. And I have to explain who Ethan Ralph is, and I have to explain who PPP is, multiple times to the British airport security staff. I'm on the plane, through sheer balls alone. I get on the plane. I'm sat next to someone who's trying to sleep, who's belching, who turns and locks eyes with me. And I'm disconcerted. And all the while, people on the plane, at either aisle, are sort of looking at the golden suitcase and the handcuff that's attached to my wrist. None of them know of the autistic event that's about to play out once I arrive in Vegas. But they can only guess and speculate it. What is Gobinson doing? What is this man doing with a golden suitcase attached to his wrist, handcuffed, for all and sundry to see? So I arrive, I touch down at McCarran International Airport, the Vegas airport. I arrive, Las Vegas. I step off the plane. I go through, yet again, more customs, more airport security staff trying to investigate, trying to ask me why I've got this suitcase attached to my wrist. What's inside the suitcase? And I carefully and calmly explain that there's $6,200, unchanged from its British original form, sitting in this suitcase, and it's to be paid upon conclusion of a fight between Ethan Ralph and PPP. And they go, who's Ethan Ralph? Who's PPP? And I have to explain the esoteric lore between both characters, and how their feud and beef has culminated in the fact that I've had to travel across the Atlantic with a golden suitcase attached to my wrist, handcuffed, that will only be removed upon conclusion of this fight. So I walk through customs, through sheer balls alone, and I step out of the gate, out of the departure gate, and I see, standing there, I see PPP and Surfer, and Robbie, the owner and proprietor of Jewelry World. They're there, waving me down. Gobinson, hi, it's us. Come over, get in the car. It's time to drive to Caesar's Palace. We will have a great time. Maybe we stop off for something to eat beforehand. And then we arrive at Caesar's Palace. And at the front of Caesar's Palace, there's Ethan Ralph, there's Dick Masterson, there's Andy Warski, and there's some weird sort of obese fellow trailing behind them, about a few yards behind, looking down at his phone. He's wearing a luchador mask, and I'm sort of wondering who that person is. So I ask Andy Warski, who is that? And he's slurring his words so much, he's this retarded Rocky at this point. So I turn to Dick Masterson and I go, okay, who is that fellow? And Dick Masterson says, that's Gator. He's funny, don't you know? I go, oh. So I wave at Gator, and he averts his gaze. He looks down at his phone even harder. And I can just about catch, on his phone screen there, yards and yards away, I can just about see that he's frantically browsing Kiwi Farms, frantically looking for mentions of Ethan Ralph's name. I finally go up to Ethan Ralph and I shake his hand, and we address the suitcase that's attached to my other hand with a handcuff, the golden suitcase full of $5,000. He says, have you got the money, Gobinson? I said, it's in the case. It's in the case, Ethan Ralph. He said, I can't wait to put PPP in hospital. PPP is behind me. PPP is having to be restrained, held back by Surfer and Robbie, owner and proprietor of Jewelry World. I can already sense that this is going to be a crazy fight. But we all book rooms, all of us, the whole posse, book rooms at the Caesar's Palace in honour of the event that's about to take place. We all book rooms at Caesar's Palace. We all check out the hotel rooms. We all have a great time sort of playing with what's in the hotel rooms, drinking what's in the mini bar, looking around. This is great. This is it. This is it. PPP is trying to hit as much booze as he possibly can, but Surfer's giving him a talk and saying, you need to be in prime physical shape when you face Ethan Ralph. We can hear in the adjacent room that Ethan Ralph is already vomiting. Ethan Ralph has already consumed his body weight in alcohol. He's down for the count, right? I can hear Dick Masterson and Gator trying to get Ethan Ralph to wake up. Wake up, you've got to fight PPP in mere moments. We've got to drive out to the desert and fight PPP. Andy Warski comes into our hotel room and says, have you got any ice left? And we go, yeah, sure, I'm sure it's in the fridge there, Andy. So Andy goes to the fridge, he withdraws a bag of ice, and the next thing we know is in the adjacent room, we hear through the wall that Ethan Ralph is stirred awake by Warski throwing a bag of ice on him. And an argument takes place. We can't hear what. Andy's shaking and quaking. He comes into our room and he says, I can't work with Adrienne. I can't work. I've lost. Even at this point, I'm disorientated and confused. I just want the fight to happen. I can't even do an accurate Warski as Rocky impression anymore. We also hear word that Dame's flying out and Rand is also flying out. So we go back to McCarran Airport, all of us present. And we see, coming through the departure gate, we see Dame Pesos with his soundboard. And he's saying, it's me, Gator! And all of us sort of feel embarrassed and shamed and humiliated that we are associating with this walking, talking soundboard with a fake Mexican accent who has a vendetta against Mundane Matt for all and sundry to see. He's wearing, upon a shirt, a picture of Mundane Matt depicted as Jabba the Hutt from Star Wars. We also see, coming through the departure gate, Rand. Now, Rand is mounted a kangaroo that he's brought with him all the way from Victoria in Australia. He's mounted this kangaroo, and the kangaroo seems quite tame. All throughout, Rand is saying, I'm somewhat trepidatious on this kangaroo, but we're going to go and see this fight between my lord and master Ethan Ralph, my mensch, Ethan Ralph, and Pay. So all of us are now gathered. We're all gathered. I'm looking at the distance there, and I can hear Ethan Ralph just screaming in the distance. And I say to Dick Masterson, what's happening? What's going on? And Dick Masterson sort of nodding his head and going, yeah, Ralph's just kicking Gator into touch, keeping him in line. And all we can hear is Ethan Ralph saying, keep the mask on, Gator. Keep it on. I'm the real driver of the show, Gator, not you. And all we hear is Gator's submissive cries as he fully accepts the commands of Ethan Ralph. Now, we're all gathered in the car. All of us are driving to the Nevada desert. We've got Taylor Swift on the radio. We're singing till our hearts can no longer hear our own voices. We are belting at the top of our lungs Wildest Dreams, Blank Space, Love Story, all of the classics. Gator's wrestled a bottle of Maker's Mark that Ralph has concealed within one of the folds of his gun there, because Ralph's got to stay sober for the fight. But sat between Ethan Ralph and PPP, or all of us are sat between Ethan Ralph and PPP. Don't forget, I've still got this suitcase handcuffed to my wrist, a golden suitcase. I can see Ethan Ralph occasionally avert his gaze, looking at this suitcase with piggish desire. He knows that in the suitcase there's 6,200 tokens that he can just blow all away on accelerating a premature death for himself. But all of us are hyped up. We're all great. Warski is driving, apparently. None of us feel safe. None of us feel safe that Warski's in charge of the car. But we go with it anyway because we're in Vegas and we're driving out to the desert to see two whales mate. So we arrive at the desert. We're about 6, 7, maybe even 10 miles into the desert. There's nothing around us. Just sand. Absolutely nothing. It's a rocky desert, perhaps. Blazing sun. And we all step out of the car. Gator's getting his 4K camera ready. He's getting on his selfie stick. He's allowed to take off the mask. Ralph's given him permission to take off the luchador mask. Because, I mean, had he have kept it on, he'd have probably died of a heat stroke by now. So he's setting up the audio equipment and the recording equipment. He's getting his laptop out to set up the commentary that's going to take place on this fight. In a little corner of the desert, there's myself, PPP, Surfer, and Robbie, the owner and proprietor of Jule World. We are knelt in the corner there, just on some rocky outcrop, and we're praying. We've decided to consult God before we embark upon this day of reckoning. We're praying, we're seeking salvation. We want light from the Lord Jesus Christ to guide us on our way. We turn and we see Ethan Ralph, and we see Warski, and we see Dick Masterson, wondering, like, how's this going to play out? Dick Masterson is texting a 35-year-old married woman, trying to entrap her with medication and blackmail into a threesome. Gator has already got everything set up. Ethan Ralph is wrestling with Andy. We think it's a preliminary practice, but we can also see a bottle of Maker's Mark in betwixt them. And we know that Ralph just hasn't kept it together. Warski has decided to rip off his shirt for some reason. He's got 2 boxing gloves on his hands. And we wonder if Warski realises that he's not the one fighting today. But Surfer decides to challenge Warski to a fight anyway, to keep his tarred rage in check, and Surfer knocks Warski out with one blow. Warski is out during the entire fight. Warski's gone. Rand is decided to leave his kangaroo. He's decided to dismount from his kangaroo, and he's somewhat trepidatiously gazing upon the scene. He goes up and strokes Ralph's gunt, strokes it, because you are immense, Ralph. You are a god amongst men. Now let me stroke your gunt, and feel the light and the nectar that stems from the gunt. You've got Dame Pesos there. He's walking over to Gator with his soundboard. It's me, Gator! Everybody is irked by Dame. Nobody wants to be stood next to Dame Pesos. So Dame finds himself a little rocky outcrop next to a cactus where he can fully LARP as a Mexican. Now the fight starts to begin. PPP in one corner, Ethan Ralph in another. I'm stood next to Dick Masterson. I'm saying to Dick Masterson, was this a good idea? And Dick Masterson says, yeah. He tries to sell me a new project too, and I say, no. I don't believe in your scam. I don't want to be a part of New Project 2. You're not buying my soul for 26 pieces of silver. And he laughs knowingly. He goes, yeah, they're all suckers. I've got this big list of social security numbers. I'm about to sell it on to Raid Shadow Legends or some other bullshit company that's going to buy this for an exorbitant amount of money. And I go, good on you, Dick Masterson. Well done you. You've achieved something that Coach Rebel could have only dreamed. And then the fight begins to begin. I see Gator sweating. He's at his laptop. He's talking into the laptop. He's talking to Flamingo and Bibble, the professional wrestling commentators, nay, boxing commentators that have decided to bring their full skill set to the fight. Now, the stipulation of the fight was that PPP and Ethan Ralph should be naked as the day they were born and wrestle in the sand and the dust there. Now the fight begins. The fight commences. Robbie from Jule World is the referee. He announces the 2 whales that are about to meet in the centre of this makeshift ring. And they walk up to each other, they shake hands, they don fists. And then it begins. The fight begins. The fight consists of Ethan Ralph and PPP nude, lying on top of each other. The other one trying to scramble up for air. And what we see over the course of 3 minutes is no reflexes. We see no sudden movement. We just see two whales attempting to mate. I turn to Rand, and I see that Rand has decided to fight his own kangaroo that he's brought all the way from Australia. He's boxing with the kangaroo. And I go, that's somewhat impressive, isn't it? And Surfer says, let me sort Rand out. Let me sort this leader of the alt-right out. So Surfer walks up to Rand and lays him flat out. Rand's out cold, just like Warski. All of us are somewhat better and enriched by the experience. We turn our attention back to the fight. All we can hear in the background, by the way, is Gator going, oh boy! Wow! And all of us are sort of sickened by Gator and Bibble and Flamingo's commentary. So we decide to do this. All the while, we're watching two whales mate. Ethan Ralph and PPP are breathless. They can't breathe. They're struggling for air. They're covered in dust. The gunt itself has dust entrenched within it now. And Ethan Ralph decides to do a power move. I'd call this his signature move during the fight. He decides to lift the gunt up and flap it down, causing a cloud of dust and sand to enter PPP's eyes. It's the Gunt Kamehameha, as it were. All of us are astounded. How is PPP gonna win? We're watching a 6'4" obese man fight a 5'1" obese man, but Ethan Ralph seems to have the upper move. The round is called. Round one to Ethan Ralph. PPP comes to our corner. I deliver the best sermon in my best Southern preacher voice that I've ever done. I tell PPP to rise up. God is on your side, brother. Now get back in the ring and destroy Ethan Ralph. PPP is bloodied and bruised. He looks at me as though he's finally realised that Godwinson is the saviour of not just himself, but of humanity as a whole. Surfer tells PPP that he should have worked out a bit. He should have hit the treadmill, buddy. You know. Surfer also promises PPP a well-cooked, a well-deserved meal upon conclusion of the fight. Surfer's got the beef hearts at the side. He's cutting into the beef hearts. He's trying to remove the arteries of the beef hearts. He's going to prepare a meal at the ringside there. The owner and proprietor of Jule World, Robbie, is back in the ring. He's ready to draw another round, announce the recommencement of the fight. I turn and look at Gator, and Gator is at the side of Ethan Ralph, clutching his leg, saying, "Don't go on. Do not go on, Ralph. Please stay alive. I need you to survive. Without you, I'm nothing." And Ralph, slurring his speech, he's drunk, he's bloodied, he's bruised. But what he can say is something of complete derision to Gator. Get away from me, Gator. Stay in your place. He tells Gator to put his mask back on. And Gator does so, knowing that if it's longer on for than 5 minutes, then he's out. He's going to die of a heat stroke. But he goes back to his laptop. He goes back to talking into his laptop. Oh, boy! Oh, this is great! Wow! Dame Pesos has decided to take off. Dame Pesos is walking the desert, contemplating his own soul. He's having an existential crisis. The soundboard has been left abandoned. Dame might return. Maybe he'll return a different man. Maybe he'll walk all the way on foot to Mundane Matt's house and apologise for his behaviour. But nobody seems to care, because it's Dame Pesos, and we were all embarrassed to be with him anyway. I turn to Dick Masterson, and Dick Masterson says, "How long can we keep this going for, Godwinson?" And I say, "Well, let's finish it when one person dies, Dick. And Dick Masterson says, yeah, I think that's what we should do. He turns to the golden suitcase that's still attached, handcuffed to my wrist, and he goes, do you really have $5,000 in there? And I go, yeah, of course I do. And he says, can I have it? And I say, no, this is not for you, you half-Mexican Jew. This is for that gunted fellow over there. And the fight continues. Round 2. PPP and Ethan Ralph go at it again. PPP's power move this time is to just run up to Ethan Ralph, jump about 4 feet in the air, and slam on Ethan Ralph. He does a body slam, Snorlax style, on Ethan Ralph. Ethan Ralph is trapped under the weight of PPP's gun. And I turn and look at Gator, and Gator has stopped commentating. All we can hear is Bibble and Flamingo on the Discord stream, commentating. As Gator, he unpacks from his backpack there a small flute, a small wooden flute. And he runs faster than I've ever seen this man move before. He runs to the ring. He runs to the two, Ethan Ralph and PPP. PPP is atop Ethan Ralph like a Snorlax. And this move astounds me. This is a violation of the fight, but we allow this to happen because Gator walks up to them and he plays his flute. He plays the pokey flute that rises PPP from his slumber. The Snorlax is woken. PPP is woken. He attacks Gator. And what happens next is a turn-based RPG-style fight. As Gator uses tackle and harden, and PPP uses body slam and yawn and rest. So we allow that to happen for 15 minutes before Gator is dragged away, disgraced. All of his Pokemon have fainted, and he has to go back to his laptop to commentate on it further. The round is finished, and PPP's won this round, right? A fairly even battle. I mean, at this point, we've got 1 round for Ralph and 1 round for PPP. All of us now are looking around, and we're wondering how far we can take this. Dick Masterson at this point is just telling Ralph to, keep going or die. Keep going until you die, Ralph. I have your social security number. You owe your life to me. And I'm telling you, Ralph, to go in there and lose your life to PPP. PPP, Surfer, and Robbie from Jule World, and I have all decided to pray again. We're all praying to Jesus Christ for success in the 3rd round. PPP is telling me to not give Ralph the money. He says, as my dying wish, if I die in the next round, he says, don't give Ralph the money. Keep the money. Spend it on a nice headstone for me, Goblinson. And I say, I'm sorry, PPP, but if you die, then we're burying you in the desert. These were the terms of the fight, PPP. We're sorry. Maybe we'll come out and see you every year in the desert here, if we even remember where you were buried. If not, then it looks like you're going to be buried here. It's okay. It's okay. Surfer at this point has decided to add not just beef hearts to his meal, not just chickpeas to his meal, but he's also decided to add something bizarre to his meal. And that is something that he calls asparagus wrapped in bacon. Asparagus wrapped in bacon. He tells me it's a recipe that he acquired at St. Verona's, a restaurant in Peterborough. And I shake my head and I go, okay, I'm sure this will be a nice meal for us all once this fight concludes. Ethan Ralph is being consoled by Rand. Rand and Gator are at Ethan Ralph's side. Gator's weeping. He's inconsolable. He can't believe that his lord and master could die, leaving him penniless and alone. Rand is constantly and forever calling Ralph, you're a mensch, Ralph. You're a mensch. Now get in there and destroy PPP. PPP. And Ralph goes, tell me why you wouldn't want to stream with him again? And Rand goes,
Well, I'm somewhat trepidatious about streaming with PPP because here's a man who, at any time, may display his anus.
And Ralph turns away and just runs back into the ring and goes, "Fight me! Let's go!" PPP steps into the ring. This is the final round. The third round of 3. All of us are silent as we watch. Even Gator and Bibble and Flamingo at the laptop there are silent. There's no commentary happening for the Killstream pay piggies anymore. All is silent. As we know, at the conclusion of this round, one of them will die. Ethan, Ralph, or PPP. Who will die? But we all know one thing, and that's that we want blood. All of us. All of us want somebody to die. So we watch. We watch as PPP gets Ralph in a chokehold, and Ralph spits in PPP's eyes. PPP kicks Ralph in the balls, and Ralph decides to eye gouge PPP. This is a really disgraceful, disgusting fight that violates every rule and regulation anyway. But fuck it, we're in the desert, and one of them will be buried here upon conclusion. So none of us really care. I turn to Dick Masterson midway through the round, and Dick Masterson is sort of showing me pictures. He's saying, "Look at this, Godwinson. Look at my mansion." And I go, "That's rather small for a mansion, Dick, isn't it?" And he goes, "Well, this is what Barbie dreams about, Godwinson." And I say, "But it's only 3 bedrooms." And then he tells me he lives in the Hollywood Hills, and that he goes to bed with 2 hookers every night, and he's going to die with 2 hookers in his arms, and all is well with the world. And I say, "Dick, the highlight of your career was a Pizza Hut commercial, and you were on Dr. Phil that one time." Dick Masterson goes red and starts screaming into a microphone that he's suddenly decided to display. And I turn away. I turn my back on Dick Masterson, and I walk over to Gator. And I say, "Gator, you can remove the mask now. Please take the mask off, because you'll die, and I don't want to bury 2 bodies in this desert." And Gator refuses to remove the mask, as it would have been the dying wish of his lord and master. So I decide to take the mask off Gator, and I throw it. It's sweaty. It's sodden. It's wet as anything, this luchador mask. I throw it on the ground, and it suddenly begins to steam. The heat of the sun is beginning to steam this mask. And Gator is weeping underneath this mask. He can't believe that Ethan Ralph's going to die. Because it's apparent to all and sundry now that PPP is winning. And I say to Gator, "Worry not, my son, for I will adopt you. For I will take you back to England, and you can live in my cuck shed." And Gator's eyes light up, and he goes, "Really? Will you do that?" And I say, "No, you're on your own. You fucking sycophantic Janny bastard." And Gator is weeping. He breaks down. It's over. Flamingo is saying, Gator, are you there?" Bibble is... well, Bibble's Bibble, and nobody cares. I look in the distance, the far, far distance, and I can see about 2-3 miles away that Dome Pesos is standing over the ridge of the Grand Canyon. He's pondering whether to jump over it or jump into it and take his life, for his entire life has been constructed around mundane meth. I scream and yell, and Surfer joins me, and Robbie from Jule World joins me, and Dick Masterson joins me, and even Gator joins me. And we scream, "Jump! Do it! Do it, Dame, do it!" And all we hear is, "Mundane meth!" And all of us are happier in that moment that Dame has decided to sunset himself. All of us are greatly pleased by that. We turn our attention back to the fight, and at this point, Ethan, Ralph, and PPP, nude as the day that they were born, are covered in dust and blood and bruises. Whatever bones can be penetrated through the thick excesses of flesh have been broken. Robbie from Jule will not call an end to the fight. Even Robbie wants blood. Even the unbiased ref wants blood. And then something happens. Something happens that astounds everyone. Gator yet again approaches the ring. All of us try and hold Gator back and say, no, you must let this take place. You must let fate exact its justice on your master, Ethan Ralph. And Gator, with his tarred rage, he slams us all away. He says, no, I will not let my master die. And he runs up to PPP. And PPP is about to deliver the final blow, the killer blow on Ethan Ralph. And in slow motion, the final blow is about to touch Ethan Ralph's face. And Gator's face pops up, intercepting the killer blow. And Gator dies in that moment. But he saved his master from his final end. So the fight is over. We've decided to bury Gator in the desert. It's not even it would be an injustice to even call it a shallow grave. We gave up after 3 or 4 shovels. We've left Gator's corpse just lying in the desert there. We can see vultures overhead. We assume that the vultures are just going to pick apart him and do the job for us, so we're fine. We don't care. All of us are fine. I turn to Ethan Ralph and I go, are you satisfied with this burial? And Ethan Ralph goes, I don't care, give me my money! And I remove the golden suitcase from my wrist. There's $5,000 in there. And I hand it to Ethan Ralph. And he opens it up and a golden glow envelops his face. At this point, Warski has woken up. And at this point, Rand has also woken up. And they're stood behind Ethan Ralph. And they themselves, with Dick Masterson, are enveloped by the golden glow of the golden suitcase. They're gazing upon £5,000. This was their reward. And then I say, let's all shake hands and party. Ethan Ralph and PPP shake hands. They are now friends. Their beef has been settled. They have had it out like men. And all of us drive back to Caesar's palace. Rand decides to get back on his kangaroo and he follows us behind in the car. A few of us sort of wonder whilst we're driving back to Caesar's palace. We're wondering, what will Gator's mum think? Will we have to tell Gator's grocery store that he's not going to show up? We turn to Ethan Ralph for guidance and he doesn't seem to care. Ethan Ralph is just designing what he's going to do with this money when he gets back to Vegas. And we have a really great time in Vegas. We go back to Caesar's Palace, we gamble, we do a lot of blow. We all get married to each hooker that we can possibly find. Myself and Andy Warski, we find 2 hookers, we go to a chapel, we get married. It's a shameless marriage. It's shameless. It's not going to last a few hours. But in that moment, myself and Andy Warski, we're blissful with the 2 hookers that we've acquired. Rand has decided to fly back to Australia with his kangaroo, because his kangaroo needs to go back. So he says, goodbye, guys! And none of us wave back, because it's Rand. Because it's Rand. And none of us really care. Warski, myself, Dick Masterson, we decide to blow about $10,000 on the slots. Masterson is telling everyone in the hotel that he's living in Barbie's dream mansion, that he's a celebrity, that he lives in the Hollywood Hills. But the people in the hotel don't know who he is. They're like, who? Dick Masterson who? Who are you? And he's loading up the YouTube clip of him on Dr. Phil. He's loading up the clip of that Pizza Hut commercial that he was in that one time 12 years ago. But nobody seems to care. Ethan Ralph and PPP have become brothers in arms. They have really painted the town red. They've gone missing, but we know they're having a great time. We know that they are just having the best best of times. My attention I'm alone at the bar at this point. My hook has decided to sell herself for some meth, and I don't seem to care. So I'm alone at the bar at this point, and I'm having a moment of reflection. I'm reflecting on the 2 people that have died, and I'm also reflecting on just how brilliant this whole thing has been. And I go, that was £5 well spent, Godwinson. That was £5 well spent. And then it's all over. I have to fly back to England. PPP has to fly back to Peterborough. Ralph has to drive back to Richmond, and Dick Masterson has to go back to his Barbie doll mansion in the Hollywood Hills. And we all have a really, really great time. All the while on Kiwi Farms and on Jule World and on 8chan, they've been posting pictures of various memes that have occurred that we unknowingly have caused to enter the sphere. It's been a really great time. We all go back home. We're all back home, and Ralph's, in an alcoholic coma now. He spent the £5 on just the worst things you could possibly imagine, and he's not sentient anymore. He's lost his gator for a start, so there's no kill stream. It's just Ralph hooked up to a ventilator. Ralph's gonna die pretty soon. But we're all back home, and we've all decided to use what experience we had to snake on each other in the most heartless, gutless, charlatanesque way. We're all releasing videos on each other about how, the other person was behaving disgracefully and was a degenerate and was just awful. Just awful. And the cycle continues. Another fight is set up between Surfer and Warski. We are due to meet again in the desert. This time a fight to the death. And this time attached to my hand, I'm going to have £3. The cycle continues. And that's how I envision the fight happening. Now, don't you want to see that, ladies and gentlemen? Don't you want to see that fight play out? Because I know I do. I know I've pictured and planned this out in my mind's eye. And I can see it vividly, as plain as day. All I can say to end this is, rest in peace, Brother Gaines. Nobody will remember you. And nobody will lay flowers at your grave. Because there wasn't a grave. Because you were picked apart by vultures. Seconds after we got in the car to go back to Caesar's Palace.